In an exclusive interview with Newsfirst's Shamir Rasuldeen, who is based at the UN headquarters in New York, Sri Lanka's permanent representative to the UN, Dr. Palitha Kohona, said the internal UN report would not affect Sri Lanka.
Ms. Ambassador, the report, as you did mention, highlights the failures of the United Nations during the final stages of the conflict in Sri Lanka. Does the Sri Lankan government question the role of the United Nations during this particular time period in question?
You have to remember that the UN is not a supranational organization. It's an organization of member states. When the UN operates in a country, it operates within its mandate, whether provided by the Charter or by some other authority within the UN. It cannot act on its own, as has been suggested in places by the Petri report. It is not an autonomous body. It has to be very sensitive to what the member states think, how the member states guide it, and how the host country looks at it. So in the circumstances, I think we worked with the UN fairly closely. Not only did we work closely with the UN, we invited senior UN officials to visit Sri Lanka on a regular basis. At the time, I recall that the Undersecretary General for the Office of Humanitarian Affairs, the Undersecretary General for Political Affairs, and even the Chef de Cabinet visited Sri Lanka. There were many others as well. So we worked closely with the UN, and all the time being conscious that the UN is not a supranational authority. It is an organization of member states with clearly defined roles to play.
Mr. Ambassador, what are your observations on the content of this particular report in question?
I have a lot of reservations. For example, I think the Petri report took for granted allegations which have been repeated over and over again about the number of civilian deaths. It almost totally ignored the fact that the government has conducted a very comprehensive census of people who lived in the northern province and elsewhere in the country, and which gave us a clearer picture of the number of casualties. It paid hardly any attention to the fact that many of the LTTs fought in civilian clothes, and they may have died simply because a combatant fights in civilian clothes and dies. He doesn't convert himself into a civilian. So many things like that seem to have escaped the compilers of this report, and I have serious reservations. And as a lawyer, I think this report can be challenged in many ways.